So we're back from Tech Skills Day, and it's been a great day so far. Welcome back, Cassidy. What have been some of the highlights of the show so far for you?
Oh, it has been so fun. I mean, I just talked to LeVar Burton.
I know.
That is not just a highlight of the day of the show. That's a highlight of the year so far. I don't know
You
if
bet.
you had talked to 8-year-old me and told her that I'd be talking to the Reading Rainbow guy, that would she would not believe you. It was really exciting.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So some of the highlights for me was I love talking with Scott about gatekeeping and extending your privilege, which is something that kind of hits home as I enter my third decade in tech. And then I loved speaking with Deborah Carrata, who is so passionate about teaching and has just such a great way of explaining things. It's been really fun, and both of those people were instrumental in inspiring me to become a Pluralsight author. So it was
Oh,
great.
that's so cool. Yeah, I also got to speak with Mona Chalabi, and she was inspiring to listen to because she does such cool data journalism, but also art, and combining those together is such a cool career and such a cool way to kind of differentiate yourself, but also get really good information out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I have you here, Cassidy, on Pluralsight's Upskilling AMA, you mentioned that you have a difficult time learning a new skill unless you've built something, like you have to build something with it. When you're learning a new skill, what steps do you take to make sure that you're really going to learn that skill?
Yeah, and so I am very much a hands-on person. I love being able to build something and be just like, okay, here's how it works. Here's what the underbelly of it looks like. Here's what it looks like at a high level. And so I tend to start with some kind of videos, maybe reading documentation and stuff, but I don't fully learn it until I use it. And then after using it, I tend to run into certain bugs and everything. And whenever you run into a bug, that is a great learning moment to see, okay, I understand how this works. I understand what went wrong. Now I can move on to the next thing. And being able to understand the nuances of that, I think, is super key for just understanding a technology or anything that you're learning in general. And so, yeah, that's my general approach: consuming the media, but then actually applying it.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of projects do you build generally if you're trying to learn something new or a new feature? I mean, obviously you're not building like some giant enterprise application because nobody has the time for that. But do you have any suggestions of like small projects that you've put together or small things that you build?
Yeah, and so a lot of my projects, what I do is I always write everything down. I have both a physical notebook and a digital notebook. Whenever I have a project idea, I write it down because even though I might not have time to build it, I mean, again, we don't always have the time for everything. I write it down somewhere so that when it's time for me to build, I have an idea that I can just pull from my idea jar and be able to start building it. And so sometimes my projects are very simple, like if I'm learning a new language, it might be just generate Fibonacci numbers. And if I'm learning a new framework, it might be a to-do list. So usually some of those basic things. But then beyond that, I try to think, okay, how can I make this more complex? How can I pull from a database? How can I add authentication? How can I figure out what's the best way for this to scale? Where would this break? And sometimes those projects are very silly. Like I've made a choose your own adventure story. I've made a prank website, things like that. But then sometimes they're a bit more robust, where it's like building a template for nonprofits to use, that kind of thing.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it sounds like applying it is always the best way, I think, for most people to get what they want done.
Yeah.
What are some mishaps that developers may face if they're not able to practice those skills?
If you're not able to practice those skills, I would say try to make time for them, because if you don't practice them, if you just learn from reading a tutorial or watching a video, watching a class, watching something, if you're just consuming but you're not actually outputting and trying it, you kind of understand how things should work in a bubble and on a theoretical level. And it's good to understand those things. It's good to be able to witness those things and see how it should work in an ideal world. But when you actually use it, you will make mistakes. And when you actually use it, things will break. And that's the nature of the beast. That's what programming is. And so applying things with your hands, applying things and actually doing it with your brain, with your thoughts, and figuring out how you want to add your own little creative twist on it. That's that's when you know how to use something. And sometimes I follow tutorials just completely to the book and I don't veer off at all. And I'm just like, okay, I saw how they built it. But then it's not until I customize it a little bit and see, okay, where's the flexibility here? Can I change this? Can I change that? That's when I start to really, really learn it. And you want to be able to get creative with the code. You want to be able to understand a technology, not just in an ideal world in that bubble, like I mentioned. You want to be able to understand it in a variety of use cases, and you can only really do that when you actually use it.
Absolutely. And there's a little bit of a muscle memory component, I think, to that too. Would you agree
Mhm.
with that? Like, I could watch a bunch of videos and read books about wood carving, but if I don't actually grab the tool and put it to wood, it's kind of hard to understand. And I think coding is the same way.
Yeah, theoretically, I'm an amazing wood carver because I know all the techniques from watching videos, but I've never actually tried it. So I'll
Yeah,
just go with
exactly.
that.
Uh, Could you provide us an example of a time that you were trying to build a new skill for your position at Netlify and how you went about building that skill?
Yeah, and so when I joined Netlify, I came in to be kind of a React specialist, and I've been using React for many years, so I kind of really know the ins and outs. I've taught React. I've given in-person and online workshops. I'm really into React, and then they said, "Hey, we love your React, but we'd love you to focus a little bit on Next.js, which is a React framework." And so I had to learn Next, and I had touched on it before, just from helping maintain previous projects and some open source things, but I hadn't really gone deep in Next.js and everything. And so when I had to learn it, it was kind of like what I mentioned before. I started reading the docs, I started watching videos. I wanted to make sure I understood some nuances, but I didn't fully learn it until I built some things with it. And I tried to figure out, okay, what are the limitations of it? What parts of it do I like? What parts of it can I speak to? But also what parts of it don't I like? And being able to see the pros and cons of a technology, I think gives you a lot of credibility, because if you're just like, this technology will solve every problem, chances are you're not that experienced with that technology. You want to be able
Yeah.
to know the pros and cons of everything, because there are pros and cons to everything. You have to be discerning, which is something that I talked about with LeVar the other day. It's all about really understanding pros, cons, why something's good, why something's bad, and how you can kind of manipulate it in a way to work for you, how you can work around it, how you can work with it, and that just comes with practice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's usually what I think when I see a video or a talk where somebody's just kind of gushing over a new language or framework, and they're like, "This is amazing and this is great." And in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, "Okay, where's not great stuff? Like,
Where where's the
I know
cynical
it's there.
nature? Yeah.
Yeah, like I know it's there, but
Yeah, because there have
um,
been times, for example, where I did a live stream using Vue a couple months ago, and it was my first time ever really playing with Vue. I had done a little bit here and there, but I hadn't built something with it. And again, I did a to-do list just to see what it was like. And there were little parts where I was gushing, where I was just like, "This is amazing," because of the way it handles indices and how it tracks certain variables and stuff. I thought that was very cool. But there were also parts where I was like, I don't like this. I don't know about this. And I think it's good to have room for both. You should gush over things because you want to encourage people and get them excited about something, but you got to be honest with, again, pros and cons.
yes, absolutely. So, Cassidy, you're passionate about making STEM more inclusive. How do you think hands-on learning is helping that mission?
I think it's all about the accessibility of hands-on learning, because right now there's so many resources out there to be able to pick something up and try it. Where back when I was learning way too long ago, I just didn't have that ability to say, like, I'm going to learn Python. I had no idea what I needed to learn at that point, and if I wanted to learn HTML and CSS, I had to view the source of a website and kind of just try as I went, until Neopets came out, and that was a game changer. But anyway, the having the accessibility and the discoverability of learning tools that allow you to do that kind of hands-on learning is so important, and it's really just a game changer for learners all over the world, and it's really exciting to see the industry trend that way.
Absolutely. So, why should creating an inclusive learning environment be important to technology leaders and technologists?
If you don't have an inclusive learning environment, you don't have an inclusive industry. And if you don't have an inclusive industry, you don't have inclusive products. And if you want your products to be made for everyone, they need to be made by everyone. And you need to have a lot of diverse backgrounds, people who are excited about different technologies to be able to make products that are for a diverse audience, for people who are diverse about the products that they are consuming. And that's something that I think a lot of technology leaders are understanding more and more now today than ever. And it's something that we need to keep pushing for and need to be deliberate about, because when you have a diverse team, you make better products. And if you make better products, your consumers are happy, your companies are happy, everyone's happy. And that's really the most important thing, and having an inclusive start not only to your teams and everything, but also inclusive learning where you can have a variety of ways to teach something, and you can have a variety of teachers teaching something. You never know who will resonate with whom. You never know who could learn best from a certain person or from a certain tutorial, certain video. And so I think not just hands-on learning, but also hands-on teaching, and getting everybody kind of giving back to each other, learning from each other and teaching each other, I think is really key to making this industry grow and change in the right direction.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you for sitting down and talking with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.